Melissa Caddick, the businesswoman or the pretend businesswoman who stole millions from trusted friends and investors, has been confirmed dead. Now, they first found her foot, a shoe that belongs to her, and her decomposed foot inside the shoe on a beach on the coast. A few days later, they were said to have found other body parts that were her remains. And so now we can absolutely confirm, other news channels obviously have reported this already, that Melissa Caddick is deceased. Now, I always believed that Melissa Caddick her disappearance was directly linked to the raid on her property, because she disappeared not long after the raid on her property, and that raid exposed her as a complete and utter con woman. It turns out that she was running a very elaborate Ponzi scheme, and she stole in excess of 20 million from some of her closest friends who trusted her. Some of these people had known her for a very long time. There isn't a cent of that money left. I think there was less than 5,000 in her bank account. So that money is gone. She spent that money on luxury trips abroad. She spent that money on dinners, dining out, first class travel. And a lot of that money she spent on designer goods. She loved Prada, she loved Chanel, and she also loved Dior. This is the number one headline grabbing story in Australia right now. It is splashed all over the papers. And the episode on Melissa Caddick, the mini documentary that they did on Melissa Caddick on 60 Minutes, got 1 million views in just a week. The interest in this case is extremely high. I mean, it's taken COVID off of the front pages. This is big news in Australia. People are speculating, talking about it. People are talking about it in restaurants, coffee shops, at work. I mean, this is the number one story. And the police seem to be going with the fact that she committed suicide. And that is definitely a possibility. It is a high possibility. I mean, I've always thought that she disappeared because of the raid, because she was exposed for what she did, because she was exposed for conning people out of millions, and she was ashamed. She didn't want to go to prison. She didn't want to confront what she did. She didn't want to admit what she did. She didn't want to give up her lifestyle. I've always believed that her disappearance was a direct result of that raid and being exposed for the con woman that she is. However, death was lower down on the list for me. This is not what I wanted. I wanted her to be found alive. I wanted her to be charged and arrested and put in prison for a very, very long time. That was my dream. That was my dream expectation. And, most people thought that she was still alive and she was living at large and, had run away. Some people, or a lot of people, are speculating that she jumped from the cliff near her home and committed suicide that way. And in fact, had she done so, her body would have likely ended up in the spot where she ended up. So that is a very, very high, extreme possibility that this was a suicide. She knew it was over and she jumped and her body ended up where it did end up. But obviously this also could be a homicide. I'm not ruling that possibility out. And I never ruled out the possibility that she could be deceased. That was always a possibility. It just was not the top of the list for me. And, her husband will be a suspect. And the people that she, the people whose money she stole, they would also be suspects. And anyone who knew her would be a suspect. Also, she could have, it could have been foul play by a stranger. We don't know. No one knows yet. There's no proof of anything yet. apart from the fact that it seems or it appears to be that she died. Some people are saying that she might be still alive. Her foot was found and maybe a few other body parts, but her whole body was not found. And so, that has people questioning things. This is a dark, macabre mystery. And I really didn't want this to turn into a murder mystery. I just wanted this to be a case about financial fraud. I really didn't want to be tackling another murder case on my channel. Because I've done the Chris Watts case and continue to do that. I've done the Laurie Ballow case, and I've spoken about those things. And I didn't really want this to be the turn of events, but it just so happens that this is what happened, and there's nothing I can do about it. I can't change that. I do think it's very likely that she did commit suicide. However, I'm just not 100% sure. There needs to be an investigation. And of course, the story of what happened, the hunt and the investigation is just beginning. The irony of all this is that me and one of my Australian subscribers, he and I were having a long conversation the other day about this case. We were talking about other things as well, but we mainly were talking about this case. And, we have our own opinions on this case. And I would never have imagined that after this deep conversation that me and this Australian subscriber were having, that Melissa Caddick would be found dead. I mean, I literally just uploaded a podcast on Chris Watts, the latest shenanigans in that case. And then this Australian subscriber wrote a comment underneath and said that, Melissa Caddick's body has been found and the police are just going to announce it. And since then, I've had just quite a few messages of people telling me that she's been found dead. So yes, I am very aware of it. And I was always going to do a follow-up episode to my previous episodes. But, when I first heard, I was very, very, very shocked. I wasn't completely surprised, of course, that her death was always a possibility. Suicide was always a possibility. Murder was always a possibility. But it's just really not the outcome that I wanted. I would have so liked it had she been alive, had she been, arrested, charged, and gone to prison for what she's done. She's escaped justice. But now the hunt is for, the investigation continues for what really happened, because I remember when I heard that she died, I literally had to stop what I was doing. And, I did a few things, but then I just had to lie down and digest this news. And I just, it's just not the outcome that I wanted at all. I didn't want this to turn into a murder mystery or another death, But, I have no, I have no control over these things. And, this is what happens. So this is really not the outcome that I wanted. And it seems to me that, she started out as a financial advisor and she had a license. And then at some point, she decided that she was gonna be dishonest. And I think she was walking around with a fake license for a while. And then the fraud started. So she went from having a legitimate job and career as a financial advisor with colleagues and everything. And then she, at some point she decided that she was going to do all of this conning, and her husband as well, who is, is going to be a prime suspect in her murder if it turns out that she was murdered. He also had, was pretending that he was a very successful businessman. And, both of them were living under this illusion of success and money, and it was all lies. It's very, very disappointing, but I'm going to be covering this case for quite some time until we get to the bottom of what happened. It's very intriguing. I'm very interested in it. And I'm just as interested in this case as I am in the Lori Vallow case, which I no longer cover as a murder case. I will cover it, but more to do with the personality and the characters in the case rather than the murder case itself. Because, the fact that Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell they've taken so long to charge them with murder, I'm just disgusted by it. I've always been interested in the Chris Watts case. That's what I started this channel with. But this case is very interesting as well. And I will be keeping an eye on it, and I will continue to report on it. So, yeah, that's it.